Hope you're having a great night. This is Tuesday, September 24th, 2024, at 9 o'clock. So if you're watching this at another time, this is when this was originally done. All right, so this is all about Tropical Storm Helene, which is not far from becoming Hurricane Helene, and then Major Hurricane Helene as we go through the day Wednesday into Thursday. So if you've been following along with us over the past couple of days, we've been talking about that this is going to be a swift moving storm. It's going to be a one that will have a lot of rain for us, even leading up well before it gets here throughout the day on Thursday. And then the main wind event comes in late Thursday night, overnight into early Friday morning. I know it's right there in the overnight period. Let's go ahead and get into some of the stuff here, and then I'll take some of the questions. We will start with the radar shot from now, just to show you nothing's going on. We talked about a little chance of maybe some rain in spots tonight, but not looking for a big deal. You can see the stuff on back toward the west. Let's get down here into really just a mass of clouds, but somewhere in all that, right, is where Tropical Storm Helene is. And so once this kind of threads the needle over open water and eventually gets out into the Gulf, this is when it's going to start to blossom tomorrow. So yeah, 60-mile-per-hour winds. If you're keeping score at home, there's a look at that. The movement west-northwest at 12, and that is going to pick up. It looks like a pretty good bit as we go through the day tomorrow. Now, this water is incredibly warm, so it's like a hot tub. So that's the fuel it really wants, and it will really blossom and then start to move in a hurry on off toward the north. So it sounds weird to talk about something that is that far away that will be here starting to bring rain Thursday morning and then knocking on our door with the center of circulation here as we go into late Thursday night. So that's in 48 hours for it to get up here, which is not very long for this. So you can see the movement is not very fast at this point. You can see kind of little jumps, and this is the way you would normally see a track for a tropical system, is kind of little time stamps that kind of go up, every 12 hours or so, something like that. But this one was going to launch right here. So now you're looking at going into Thursday, and because it's such a quick jump from timestamps, you see a Category 1, Category 3, somewhere in here is where it would go to a Cat 2. To a 3. Remember on the Saffir-Simpson scale, it goes to a Cat 5. That's it. So once you get to a Category 3, that's considered a major hurricane. And it looks like it's going to be right here in the Big Bend of Florida. Now, again, this can change. The red line, some people in the meteorological community don't like that red line there. I don't mind it. It still shows the general thinking. It gives the viewer at least the idea of where the consensus is with the models. But obviously they call it a cone of uncertainty for a reason. It fans out on each side here. So that means that red line could go as far as over here or over here. At this point for us, it really doesn't matter too much about which side of all that it's going to go. We're still going to get a lot of rain. We're still going to get a lot of wind here Thursday night, especially overnight into Friday morning. But where that red line does make sense for us is if we have any more deviation of this toward the west. So if the center of circulation actually does come up more just outside of our west, to our western counties here, that puts us on the dirty side of the storm. And you hear us talk about that from time to time. Most of the outer bands feeding in on the east side is where you're going to see some isolated, brief spin-up tornadoes. Now, most of this so far looks to be in southeast Georgia, over here into South Carolina. Now, if this could move over a little bit more this way, then that definitely helps us. We still would have rain and possible tropical storm force winds, plus even maybe tropical storm force to Category 1 hurricane winds. That still could happen, but it would lessen the tornado threat for us. Now, here's another thing to keep in mind, and I'll get to that in a second. Let me show you this first. This is the latest graph model. I'm going to show it to you twice. The first one, I'm not even going to pause it. I'm just going to let it rip. So don't freak out and say, oh, I didn't see it. It went by too fast. Matter of fact, I'll show it to you again. So here it goes again. So this is the whole start through the day Wednesday, and watch it really start to pick up speed here and then come right up through here. Now, all right, let's just take the same model, but we're going to look at it from our perspective here. So everything we just saw would still be happening through the day tomorrow to our south. Just to show you that tomorrow, even before we get into all that Helene stuff, we're going to be looking at the potential for rain and maybe some storms. Now, this is not really related to the tropical stuff. There's a boundary off to our west that's going to be sparking some showers and storms. So we may even start to rack up some rainfall totals early as we go through tomorrow afternoon. This is not Helene, though. This is scattered stuff. We'll see how it goes. There may be batches that put down some locally heavy rainfall going into tomorrow night, same thing. This takes us into around midnight tomorrow night. But then, once we get into early Thursday morning, now you're starting to see kind of the top edge. You can kind of see the arc here. So sort of the outside northern outer bands, or just the overall influence of the tropical system to our south, really starting to push rain in. So this is mid-morning Thursday. Notice as we go through lunchtime into early afternoon, still kind of lifting up. There could be lulls in this where we just have sprinkles for a little bit breezy, I think, as we go through the day, but nothing compared to what we will see that night. And again, I can't drive this home enough. With tropical systems, especially one that is still so far away from us, there's still changes that can happen. Now, having said that, most of the spaghetti models, in other words, all the computer models that are chewing on this, are almost all gunning it in the same direction. So there's not like a whole lot of variation on this. So in other words, the confidence, which is a word used a lot in meteorology, for how this is going to play out is pretty high with this, that this is pretty much the way it's going to go, and there could be some deviation to where the center is. All right, so here's, say, getting close to midnight Thursday night. Obviously, if you look at the bottom of your screen, you can see center of circulation. It doesn't mean it's going to be right there. It could be a little more over this way. It could be a little more this way. And actually, the graph has shifted a little bit from right over to Macon to a little bit eastward throughout the day today, whereas the actual National Hurricane Center track kind of goes up more like through there. Again, that's that center line. And there's some people in the weather community, it drives them nuts if you start talking about that center line. I don't mind it. Gives you a general idea, especially when you're trying to figure out if you're on the clean or dirty side of the storm. There is a look at least this graph model, and there's a new one coming out in about an hour, that you would have center circulation somewhere in here. Look at the wind speed particles, the wind particles here. Here's the thing that I was going to mention earlier. When you have a landfalling tropical system, as you know, these things feed off of warm ocean water. So that's like their buffet line. So as long as that's there, they can keep going. And if there's nothing like wind shear to tear them apart, they're good to go. And that's what's going to happen through tomorrow and a good chunk of the day on Thursday over the Gulf. Once it starts to get both feet on land and starts moving north, it will start to degrade and fall apart. Now, if you had a slower storm, it would start to kind of fall apart, and then slowly but surely as it makes its way up into central Georgia. Tropical storm, maybe more like down to tropical depression, but starting to fizzle like we normally see. This one's going to have a pretty good bit of speed going with it. And so what that means is it's trying to fizzle out as it comes on land, but it's going to be moving so fast, it will not have had a lot of opportunity to weaken a whole lot by the time it gets to us. Again, if this is how this plays out. So you can see still some pretty stout wind still going on here as we go Friday night. Right now, my window for the worst for us would be midnight Thursday night until around 5 in the morning Friday morning. So at least it's not in the middle of the overnight, right? Yeah, it's right in the middle of the overnight. We've seen that story before. So let's go forward. Watch how fast this thing's going. By the time you get in, that's the reason I said 5 a.m. Of course, those numbers could change, but you're already lifting up north of I-20 at this point. We have a few sprinkles left over, and then all of a sudden we get into lunchtime and beyond, the sun comes out. We're off to a great Friday night and a great weekend. Just like that, it's in here and then it's gone. So that's a little bit different than some of the ones we normally see. Here's a look at tornado potential. This is just the Euro model here. But again, let's say your center of circulation is somewhere in here. Again, dirty side of the storm is going to be on the east side. So if you follow this, you can see on the scale somewhere kind of low to middle of the road tornado threat. And generally on these tropical tornadoes, they're going to be isolated in nature. They're going to be usually kind of short-lived. You don't see them kind of hang around a whole long time. So that's the good news on them, but it can be kind of like playing whack-a-mole. I've said that before, where they show up and then 2 scans later they're gone again. Having said all that, this is an area where we may have some tornado watches, southeast Georgia, maybe even in some of our southeastern counties. And then rising toward the north and east as we go through the day. Again, any movement of the actual center of the storm, if it were to go more toward the Georgia-Alabama line, then you can take a lot of this yellow and move it more in our direction. If the center of the storm moves a little farther east, then you can cut out some of this yellow. It'll be mainly off here. And you can see it kind of goes up in this general direction. All right, so having seen all that, if you look at the Storm Prediction Center's outlook for the whole thing, you can see a level 2 down here, which is kind of right in where I just showed you that tornado potential, where the ingredients are most favorable for rotation. And also there's a low end level 1 for us here. So that's pretty much kind of center of the storm and out. Rainfall, these are estimates Again, this stuff can change, but you can see some of this 5, 6, 7 inches of rain. Now, this is also taken into account what we could see tomorrow afternoon, tomorrow night, not related to the tropical system. So by the time you put that in, and then whatever we get all day Thursday and then Thursday night, you could see some pretty big numbers. So the National Weather Service is on top of that. Flash flood watch is out, going through the whole event. All of central Georgia has the same potential to see flash flooding. Normally with a fast moving system, you wouldn't be looking as much at flash flooding because it's kind of here and then it's gone. It's not like 1994 for us, where one would just sit still for 2 days and keep dumping rain. But we look to be having kind of before the event, a lot of rain possible, some rain possible tomorrow, and then a lot of rain possible through the day on Thursday, even before the storm gets here. So these are, again, projected wind gusts, and I know you're going to see some numbers here that are a little bit jaw-dropping. It doesn't mean 88, or I can show you one that's worse than that, 98 miles an hour, 91 miles an hour. If this thing, as I just mentioned, is still a tropical storm, or even still a Cat 1 hurricane, you could have wind gusts that are kind of pegging the charts out there, because again, the fast moving, it just has not had time to weaken down a whole lot. I don't know if we're going to actually see numbers like that. I've seen this before on landfalling systems that'll throw up some crazy numbers and we don't hit those. So I think it's easily possible that we get at least 50 to 70 mile per hour wind gusts, which is in the range of tropical storm and the upper end of tropical storm to almost Category 1. We'll see how it goes. I'm interested to see what the next model does to these numbers. There is, 4 or 5 in the morning. You can see where they get suggested center of rotation is going to be there. And then as it starts to lift through Friday morning, just like that, it's gone. So we'll see. Here's some of the takeaways. Severity of the impact still uncertain because still a couple of days away. I mean, the models are pretty much on it as far as where it may go, but any deviation one way or another could change some of the elements, or at least some of the variables for us. I do still think that rain and some gusty winds on that Thursday night looking like a sure bet, regardless of whether it jogs a little bit east or west. But again, your more tornado threat is going to be on that east side, so it's going to depend on where the center is. Either way, we're all getting something out of it. Notice how it just all clears out Friday night, and it's gone just like that, and moving away for what will be a nice Friday night and a great weekend. All right.